Warriors, rise. Hey, what's up, everybody? Excited to be with you guys. It's been a wonderful, wonderful 4 weeks. Waters and I have been together for almost 4 weeks, not physically together in the same room, but we just finished up our Great Awakening boot camp, which was really excited. So today is going to be a mix. We're going to talk a little bit about what we learned through the Great Awakening and what we taught through the Great Awakening, through our own Great Awakening. We're also going to talk about the chaos coming within the markets. We're only 4 months, a little over 4 months away from the Shmita. I remember the first time I met you when we talked about it. That was, man, time is flying by. I'm going to talk a little bit about time, space, reality, because I can't even believe how long we've had a friendship and a relationship now. It's wild, man, how quickly this has gone by. And that's going from that condition, right, to this unconditional fourth dimension as we go through this. So as we speak through this, if you're new to the channel, we like to talk about things outside of the box. And Waters Above and I are working to help encourage people to really get into that heart space as we go through one of the biggest financial collapse in history, but also the greatest time in human history. So Waters Above, how you doing, brother?
I'm doing better every day. Excited to be with you 2 days in a row.
It's wild, man. It's been awesome. It's been 4 weeks. So what we'll do is we'll just kick it back and forth. And so what we did through our Great Awakening boot camp is we're both heavily into cryptocurrency, and you guys do crossover in between Waters Above and I. And he does the breakdown of the markets through geometria. I learned a lot through him. He actually decoded my name, which is wild. My name actually equals 3T Warrior Academy. So there's so many rabbit holes that we've gone down. And I think this is probably one of the most important pieces of work that I've done, because it wasn't just about generational wealth building. It wasn't about financial. It was about the Great Awakening and moving from the created I am, which we're experiencing right now within our physical reality and all the chaos and stuff going on, to the great I am, to becoming the creator. And when people say that, they get all caught up in this God story of consciousness and physicality and religion and all that stuff. And it's spirituality. It's just an awakening, and not even spirituality. It's just an awakening of who you truly are. And so we took people through week 1, which is the created I am, which is the indoctrination system. And I think a lot of people watching this channel would agree that we've all been indoctrinated into our medical system, our financial system, our education system. And then week 2, we took them into the great I am. The I am, what you put behind the words I am becomes your truth, right? Then we went into week 3 and we talked about practical tools in a very unpractical, confusing world. And then week 4, we really broke down letting go and letting it flow. So just to let you guys know, what we will be doing is, if you missed it live, we are actually taking the videos and we're packaging it up, and we're going to put it into a 4-week series, and you'll be able to join the Great Awakening Bootcamp and listen to the pre-recorded videos. And I highly recommend you do, especially as what we're going to talk about the chaos coming in the markets, because what's really important right now is mental health. And I want to get really serious about this, Warriors, because I've had a couple influencers that are very close to me, and I didn't have anybody personally within our academy, thank God, because we teach the fundamentals. We really teach to stay calm, don't trip by the dip, hold like a tick on a dog, diamond hands. These are cultural things that we've embodied. But I've had a couple influencers reach out to me, and their friends have taken their lives because of these markets. And it breaks my heart, because I've been there. I attempted suicide, so I understand that feeling of hopelessness. And so Waters Above, and I hope to bring you a message of hope, of peace and prosperity, knowing that you can create the life you've always wanted. Now, the reality is, within the physical reality, there's going to be some changes, right? As we move from the Web 2.0 to Web 3.0, from physical to a quantum field. And we want to dive into the chaos coming with the markets and the Shmita. So I know when we first met, I think it might have been one of our first videos where we talked about the Shmita, and it blew my mind. I was like, whoa. And I dove into it because I was in the banking sector and I really didn't understand what the Shmita meant. Then when I dove into it, there's biblical sense to it in regards to farming and stuff like that. And then you go into the deeper financial sense of it, where there's a collapse every 7 years. So I wanted to talk to you about that. And we're only 4 months away, which is wild.
Yeah.
So what are your
Well,
thoughts?
just to give your community, if they're unaware of what Shmita is, it's the 7-year cycle in the Hebrew calendar. So every 7 years, there's the Sabbath year. Just like in the Hebrew days of the week, the 7th day or the rest day is the Sabbath day. So Judaism practices this number 7 and highly regards it. So we are in that 7th year today, in this time right now, between September of 2021 leading up till this upcoming September 2022. And Shmita means release. So what's really important to remember is, as we approach the end of Shmita, which is coming up in September, and slightly after, we have all of our biggest market crashes. So all of our biggest market crashes, or war or any big false flag events or things that have happened on the world stage, they're typically centered around Shmita years, or they're leading up to a Shmita year, or exactly right around the time it ends. So we talked about it, I guess, back probably almost a year ago now.
Mhm.
So I actually was exposing this to your community before it even started. And that was really beautiful to be prepared for such a thing before it even came to be. And now that we're here, we're seeing all the chaos. And one of the things that's important that you brought up was the biblical terminology of it, where it has to deal with agriculture. So
Mhm.
before it was transitioned into being more about money and this new world where we have food is very easy to get right now. You know, we all have to admit comparatively to like 100 years ago where we actually had to grow our food and we had to deal with real human beings in order to organize getting our food, etc. And right now, we could even see on the mainstream media they're starting to push the food shortage narrative, and it's blowing my mind because it's becoming mainstream now. And I saw KitGo, this very famous kind of like popular financial media channel where they're kind of like not at the CNN or CNBC level. They're a little bit more, you know, towards our sector, focusing a lot more on fintech and cryptocurrencies, etc. And even they have recently been talking about food shortages. So this has everything to do with Shmita. And if you pay attention to where we're at specifically right now, we're kind of at a super Shmita. We're in what's called Jubilee cycle. So if you go back every 7 cycles of 7, on the 50th year after those 49 years, you have what's called Jubilee. And that's pretty evident right now. If we go back 50 years ago, we had the transition for the United States of being taken off the gold standard with
Yeah.
the Nixon shot. So this isn't a joke. People are well aware now how serious this cycle is. And here we are. And we just saw a couple days ago one of the top market cap cryptocurrencies literally wash out 100% of its market cap over a 3-day span.
Yeah, and that's man, and right at the same time, I reported on this morning on the YouTube channel. Right at the same time, Janet Yellen is talking about stablecoin regulations. They launched out their stability report that has stablecoin It's like boom, lockstep, boom. They launched a stablecoin regulation. Now they're coming hard on stablecoin regulation, and so it's it seems to be all by design. But there's something you said to me that was just blew my mind, and I actually did a TikTok on it today, just recently. And of course, only a couple thousand people would watch that. But if I do anything with fear, hundreds of thousands of people watch a video. But if I do anything with light, love, light, and positivity, of course, only a couple people watch it. But you said something during the Great Awakening that blew my mind, and it really made me think that this small percentage of the population that controls the financial wealth, right? That control the media, the money controls the media and politics, and they control the information and vibration of the people through that, right? The frequency. They actually cooperate and work together. They actually work together way better than we do, and that's why they're able to control such a large amount of people. And if we all realize that the left and right were created by the left and right to get us to go against each other, to get us to battle, to get us to freak out when the markets collapse, to get us to pick mask versus unmask, the V versus unV, the C versus unC, it really blew my mind, and it made me think about this. And I'm like, man, it's one perceptive reality shift for all human beings to wake up from this box, right? And that's what we talked about, and shatter the box and start to recreate a new one through cooperation. And I started to look at it from a macro level, and I'm like, people think we need to fix it at a macro level, but it's actually micro. It's us, right? It's us that needs to change, and it's us that need to cooperate. And if all of us on this channel, a couple thousand people are going to watch this, started to cooperate, and then cooperate with your neighbor and brother and sister, then we could find the same control they have, correct?
Yeah, and the symbolism is shown to us in the pyramid, in the Great Pyramid. And if you look at the back of the dollar bill, you'll see the pyramid where the all-seeing eye is at the capstone. The capstone is made of a single piece of actual metal, and that was removed. But the point I'm making here is the blocks beneath that capstone are the rest of the foundation, and that's us. We're the bricks of this pyramid. And if we would just realize that we could actually come together as one, we could transmutate our energy from being these blocks to being an actual like harmonizing spiritual oneness. And that's missing, and it is actually the only thing that's allowing these apex predator or elite or royalty or whatever word you want to call them, that's what's allowing them to run this show as the minority, because they're in the smallest percentage of people, yet they control everyone, and they control everyone through fear. And
Mm.
the gasoline of this simulation that we're in is fear. And when you break away from that, you actually go towards the path of love, you see that you become empowered. And through your self empowerment, then you will start to only surround yourself by people who are also at that vibrational frequency. And then it will continue to fractal out. And
Mm.
this is the beauty of the human experience, is we actually chose to be here in this physical realm. And if we would remember that we chose this, then we could start to see everyone around us more as an equal, or more as an opportunity to grow self, instead of
Wow.
having this division. So we're suffering right now as a species while simultaneously blaming the elite. And
Yep.
that doesn't even make any sense, because
Nope.
it starts with you. And if you change yourself, if you go from hell to heaven and create a paradise within, then you're not worried anymore about this external reality that you've been spellcasted into believing existed in the first place.
Yeah, that's power. So you talked about empowerment, right? So I was talking on Twitter Spaces this morning about this. So empowerment, right? If you the first two letters are EM, if you flip those around, it's me, right? Once you break away me, it becomes power, right? So when they can break you away from you and they can get you outside of yourself, right? They can control you because they have you focused outside at some deity or God or whatever it is outside of yourself, and you can't find
Mm,
yourself. But when you bring in the EM, which is me, if you flip it around, it's empowerment. And if we all empowered ourselves to know that we have everything we need to survive, like you said, the food shortages, that was one of the biggest awakenings I had when I became fluid with money, because I had always been making money, losing money, and I've been very transparent with this. And what happened was, is I realized when I had lost it for the third time, when the C word shut our business down, and I was like, man, I sat there for a moment and I said, you know what? There's fruit trees all over. If I really needed to eat, I could go grab off one of these fruit trees. And it just started to hit me, and I was like, there's water all over. And then I think it was my daughter one time, we were driving around. It was like, we're on a trip, and she's like, Dad, there's fruit trees everywhere. Why are people starving? And I'm like, oh shit. And I was like, interesting. And we could go down the rabbit hole with that, but really we could grow our own food, right? We can filter the water. There's streams, there's ways to do it, but we've been trained to argue against each other at this narrative that's happening. And it's funny you brought up food shortages. My nephew reached out to me, and they have baby formula shortages right now. Like literally, they
mhm.
cannot find baby formula for their child, which is wild. And she's in a situation where she can't give them formula from herself. And it's like
Yeah.
it's an interesting narrative happening right now. And that has to do with the Shmita, which is wild.
Yeah, and one thing to build off of further with the etymology and
Yeah.
you saying the word empowerment, you broke it down from M, power, and anything that has MENT, meant. This turns back to mentis or mente, which means mind.
Hmm. Wow.
Okay. So it's like when you look at the word government, guver or governare, this means mind, control. Governare mentis. So it's actually, the word is two words put together. Governor means to control. Like on a gun, you have a governor that
Hmm.
controls, and then menti means mind. So if you just think about what the word government means, it means mind control. That's what it's broken down to.
Holy
Yeah,
shit.
and if people started studying the language a little bit more and learning these terms, they would see, just the Latin root words, the prefixes and suffixes of the words are really powerful. But what you said about food shortages, I want to say something really quickly. We aren't having food shortages. We're just watching everyone get priced out of the foods that they used to have choices of. So we have food choice. And the way that government works is they establish a system of privileges towards you. They say that driving is a privilege. You having a license or a passport is a privilege. They've brought you here into this matrix and essentially called you a slave. They
Hmm.
said you are not allowed to do something until we give you a piece of paperwork that allows you access to that thing. That's a
Hmm.
privilege. So your driver's license gives you the privilege of driving a car. Okay. Now they're actually moving this system on the quantum, on the blockchain, to food. Okay. This will also be brought to voting rights. It will be brought to every aspect of our reality. Just like if you wanted to open up a physical location of a store, you need to have a license to do such. They are moving us towards a reality where we will need to have some sort of biometric or identification system to be worthy of the privilege of access to food.
Hmm.
And it will start with a pricing out So they will price people out of the ability to get certain foods. And then the next step will be the documentation and the actual identification system that's attached onto these privileges, just like they did with a car, just like they do with flying, just like they do with every aspect of life. And if anyone studies, if people do not believe me, you could look up the countries that already have the infrastructure where they're giving subsidized prices for having these so-called, identification systems that are on the blockchain. So they're going to make it so if a loaf of bread goes from $4 to $400, the way that you would be able to access the $4 loaf of bread is by giving into this CBDC kind
Mm,
of quantum identification system. So it'll be a digital identification system that'll be tracked by facial recognition. And
mm,
this isn't my opinion. This is already being laid out. The infrastructure is already laid out. And things like Chainlink and other Oracle protocols are there to actually further this system and perpetuate it. So people really need to emotionally detach from
yeah.
cryptocurrency because
Mm,
they don't actually know how draconian crypto really is. If you're in it to make some money, then that's one thing. But when you're supporting it, when you're going out of your way to support these individuals because they're quote unquote good companies, you're really missing the ball on where this is all headed. So I always tell people who watch my work, don't give
mm,
your energy to Gary Gensler or, David Schwartz or any of these individuals because their goal is to control your mind.
mm,
Gary Gensler works for the government, the mind controllers. When people are perpetuating this idea that he's here to help crypto and help you, that doesn't even make sense because the
mm,
overall outcome of this blockchain technology is to put you chained to the block. That's what
wow.
the word means, to
Yep.
chain you
Yep.
up to the block. And what's the block? What's the building blocks of life? That's this matrix, that's carbon.
Mhm.
It's all in
Wow.
the words. So it's really important that people become more focused on self and more focused
Yeah.
on love and more focused on the spiritual side of this experience and breaking away from this crypto spell that everyone's been cast under. Because if anyone is getting to a place where they're suicidal or they're acting like this depressed, I completely get it. I really, I've had people that I know that have unfortunately they've gone through this path, but it's because they attached so
Yeah.
much onto these concepts. They became no longer an organic human.
Mm,
When your whole life is dictated by the ups and downs of money, you're not living, you're existing. And that's what we talked about yesterday on the last week of the Great Awakening.
yes. I mean, yeah, we're gonna dive into that. Let's dive into that because that's the whole thing where people are like a lot of people have come to our communities because they're like everybody's so in our Warrior Academy, everybody's been calm through this because we are not attached to the market. And so the one thing this is really important to talk about because there's a lot of new investors coming in because of cryptocurrency, right? People that are getting access to investor almost like a accredited investor because they're getting into projects very, very early. Where it used to be with the stock market, if you're an accredited investor, you could get in really, really early pre-IPO, right? Well, that's what cryptocurrency is represented for investors. Well, a lot of investors, fortunately or unfortunately, have gotten into ICOs, initial coin offerings, that their whole life savings has been rug pulled from them because they're not working on the internal part, which is the self to develop discernment, right? And without discernment, you can get rug pulled very, very easily. I just put that post up this morning. To not get taken advantage of is to know thyself. And as you work through that piece of it, what's more important than ever as we go through this, the way I look at it, okay, so the way I keep thinking about this and preaching to my warriors, I did a live this morning with my warriors, is what if next January, let's just play a game. And next January, everything went to zero, everything, and we're on an even playing field. They take everything from us, cryptocurrency, your accounts go to zero, and they're like, you're on this rental based system. Who do you think is going to survive this much more? People who are working on their mindset, that heart brain coherence. And that's what we talked about as we went into week 2 of the Great Awakening Boot Camp, is we talked about moving from the created I am, which is, and I'll dive a little bit deeper into the created I am. For me, I came into this world and I was created to be a certain person, right? And so when people often go through an awakening, many of you in the comments have probably gone through an awakening where people are like, you're so different. Well, yes, you are different because you're breaking free from what the people created you to be. That could be the religious beliefs. It could be good and bad behaviors. Could have been your parents were great parents, or maybe your parents were drug addicts. Maybe your dad left you when you were a child. There's all these conditions that created a definition that created your reality, right? And so breaking free from the created I am, going into the great I am, and knowing that whatever you put behind the where I am becomes your truth is a powerful way right now for people to start to live in that aspect, because we are moving from this like locked in where, for example, you would watch the TV, and I want to hear your feedback on this. You'd watch TV and Tide was the only detergent. It was like Tide said they were the only detergent. You really had nowhere to research, right? Well, now you have this interconnectivity where people are on YouTube, they'll test it for you, right? Or you can go do your own research. And so we're in this world where we have access to information like never before, but we're using it less than we ever have. You know what I'm saying? Like, it's like we're actually just letting people move and control our emotions through this information that can be used for good, to go research, to build generational wealth and things like that. So as you move, the created I am is someone who's just following, right? The great I am is someone who's leading. Would you agree with that?
Yeah, and it's something that I keep reminding myself of when I'm perceiving how people are behaving at this time. It's not that people are lazy, it's that people have too much data.
Mm,
So people are unaware of how to utilize the data that's already in front of them. And the same way that I was able to learn all the things that I've learned is the same way that you are capable of learning the same. We all just decide to use our attention differently. So if people decide to use their attention on things that are distractions, then how are they going to be able to learn the past? So this is why with my work, I try telling people cryptocurrency is like the dot-com bubble. If you're
mm,
getting caught up in all these, initial public offerings and whatever, then you didn't study the dot-com bubble.
mm.
So go study that. And I tell people this. I'm like, the reason why I know about it is because I'm not sitting here watching, Will Smith slap Chris Rock all day
Yeah.
and the 400 review videos determining how, it's a waste of your life.
Mm.
Okay. Go lead your life, become the main character in your movie, not a side character to somebody else's, production. So if anyone wants to become a more, talented player in this game, well, then you got to go study the other talented players. You can't be giving up all of your focus and attention onto stuff that's dramatic and theatrics, So if people wanted to be a little bit more cautious right now, more than ever, it's all about gaining control over your attention and
Yes.
utilizing your time wisely because we all have the same amount of hours in the day. And the ones who fail are the ones who aren't the best at utilizing those hours that they have available to them.
Yeah, it really is that simple. Somebody put a comment here. I want to show you this. It's really important too, like the word magic, right? Paying attention. You're paying for your attention, and that goes into everything throughout your day. What you're paying attention to at work. So when you're around your work friends or work associates, what are you talking about, right? Are you at your water cooler speaking low vibration about your spouse, partner, or loved one, or are you handling that stuff within your house, right? When people are messing around at work, are you being productive? Are you doing more that you're being asked to do? Those are things that you pay for your attention. And that was one of the things when I had lost everything 3 years ago. That was the thing that I had to shift. I was like, what am I paying attention to? And so I just got to studying, deep studying. I was watching what the multimillionaires and billionaires were doing. When they would say this, it seemed like they were doing something completely opposite. And so I paid for my attention, and in turn, I end up getting financial freedom. And so, there's I would love to put some of these comments up here because I like to answer these questions. So
Yeah,
it
of
says,
course.
Coach, you're attached to the market and blockchain. You had to sell yourself in order to trade on Coinbase, etc. I'm on crypto.com as well. So as I'm using these physical things within the physical world, I've never sold anything. I never sold anything to anybody. So I am who I am. If everything collapsed, for example, if all the businesses collapse that I own, if my crypto portfolio collapsed, and if you watch my videos, I would still be the exact same human being. I could recreate over and over and over again. And that's what my grandpa taught me before he passed. He passed back in, I think it was like 2006. I mean, we didn't have all this technology we have now. We had like MySpace. But he grabbed the phone and he said, this is a tool, right? This is a tool. But what I need you to do is I need you to develop this tool. And I took that so seriously. He was like, you need to read, you need to study, because if everything collapses around you, you do not want to be attached to the things that collapse around you. You need to have it within here, within your vault, to rebuild. And he wasn't saying from a spiritual sense, but I took it from a spiritual sense. And so I am not attached to anything. I'm not attached to the market. I'm not attached to my crypto portfolio. I'm not attached to my businesses. I'm just being me within the physical experience. And if people have said, like, my name went from John Boscus to JV to Coach JV to CJV, like, what are you, Prince, changing your name? I'm like, I'm just evolving. That's all. I'm just evolving as a human being. And CJV sounds better to me than Coach JV, or it represents Coach JV, or maybe Christ consciousness JV, because I've lived my Christ consciousness. So I appreciate that as well. But I don't feel personally within my paradigm and everybody's perception is reality that I'm attached to the market at all. So, but what are your thoughts on that when somebody's using the tools and resources? I'm going to plug my computer and I didn't realize it's not plugged in. So I'll let you, if you want to jump into that question real quick.
What was your question?
It was this right here. So somebody is like on the blockchain. So it means they sold themselves in order to do it.
They said you are attached to the market and blockchain as a statement. You had to sell yourself in order to trade on Coinbase, etc. Exclamation points. Didn't you forget when you sign up for trading? I'm not entirely sure the context and the way that this was formatted. It almost seems like a statement, and then they're trying to make a point out of the statement rather than asking a actual question. But anyways, I think the point being here is the idea of playing the game. We come here to this matrix. We need to have 1 foot in the matrix, 1 foot out. We're all selling something here. We're all here to deal with currency, okay? This is life. If you want to eat, you want to play the game, you want to go fly somewhere, whatever. Like this life is like Grand Theft Auto, okay?
Yeah.
Learn the cheat code, okay? If you want to do better, learn the cheat codes. And that game of Grand Theft Auto is pretty hilarious because when you die in that game, you just wake up again at the hospital.
Oh shit! I've never played it. That's wild. What? Are you serious?
Yeah. Wow. It's the game of life. It's really so amazing.
Wait a minute. So you wake. Okay, so somebody told me. Okay, so let's dive into that, because I remember one time we're sitting, and I love our headquarters here. Like, people will come kicking in our office doors, like, dude, because we're constantly talking about high vibration stuff and Christ consciousness. And one of the warriors came kicking in my door. He goes, dude, what if? That's why I'm laughing. He goes, what if when you die, you know how when you see the light, you're coming back into the hospital and it's a doctor, like you're going back you die, your soul goes into the womb, and it's a 9-month process, and you go through, and then you come, because there's no time, right? You come shooting out of the womb back into, and that made me remind me of the Grand Theft Auto. Like, you just wake back up in the hospital and do it again.
No, I mean, there's a lot of people that get deeper into simulation theory, and there's times, and there's a time space where things fold in on itself. And we are in a simulacrum, like we are in some sort of artificial, protocol programming language. And that's why I said in the last week of the Great Awakening Bootcamp, I said, you aren't actually finding higher self. You're not finding your higher self or meeting up with your higher self. You're becoming higher self. And through this remembering process of wiping away the amnesia of what you always were, whenever people ask me about my journey, I don't say that I woke up. I've always been this way. I just had to remember I was this way. And when someone says I'm different, I'm not different. I'm the way I've always been. You're different. You're the one that's still caught up in someone else's spell. So I don't let anyone spellcast me. Like, I'm aware of what I am. I remembered what I am. That's why I'm here, and I'm operating like a superhero while I'm here. And I don't let anyone bother me anymore. Like, that's my life. So that game of Grand Theft Auto is pretty wild, though, because it's just it's a game where you just commit crime the whole time. You just run around shooting stuff and stealing cars. It's literally called Grand Theft Auto, which means to steal a car. But the game is amazing. When you get caught doing something wrong, you get a star, and then the stars add up if you keep doing more bad things. So this symbolism is really amazing, because in Hollywood, when you become famous, they give you a star in Hollywood. And people need to learn that there's just black magic going on in Hollywood and all of this entertainment industry. So they give you a star, and they give you a star because you've made it through the ritual. You've gone through those rituals and whatever you had to go through to make your way there. And this is just life. Like, you don't have to be mad at these individuals. Let them play their game, and you play your game. They play the game of darkness. You play the game of light. Don't let their darkness dim your reality.
Yeah, that's what changed my life because, and I've learned that through you, man. That there's a lot of things I've learned from you, brother. It's like you were, because there were, I've gone through. Somebody said to me, I did a one-on-one with somebody, and one of my clients, and they said, one of my warriors, and they said to me, they said, I just want to share something with you. They said, and I had never heard it this way. They said, I've been watching you for years, and all I'm watching you do is remember who you are. And I was like, whoa, can you walk me through that? Because I thought I was becoming something, and he goes, no, I've just watched you awaken to who you already were. And I'm like, he goes, I'm watching it step by step, video by video, understanding
That's
by
the
understanding.
that's the trick, bro. That's what they keep trying to do to people. They keep trying to make people feel like they're turning into something. You're not turning into
Yes.
anything. That's like
Nothing.
shape shifting. You're not
No,
turning
no.
into something. Like you're remembering. Your client was 100% accurate.
Because you're already great, you're already powerful, you're already amazing. And I use my 6-year-old son as an example, dude. He's a superhero, dude. He believes in himself so much, and I feed that. I mean, I feed that. And to feed a young child who is pure subconscious right now, he's 6 years old, he still has that couple years left of just pure Google type, input. And it's like, and I watch parents quite a bit at the park, how they react to their kids. They're on top of them, and it's like, oh no. And I'm like, dude, go. You're on it. They designed the park for you to fall, right? And it's like, so he goes out there and he's just like, he's like, should I jump? I'm like, hey, do it. Go for it, man. Be dangerously curious, right? And so it's an interesting thing. And I see these parents like indoctrinating their kids to be fearful, Well, it's like sometimes you're not going to be there to catch them. Sometimes you're not. And I'm not saying he's jumping off the top of a building, but
Right.
dangerously curious. And it's such an interesting thing. And I realized that I was taught I unlearned who I was through the experiences and traumatic things that happened to me. It totally put me outside in the physical world trying to find myself. And that's how I ended up in suicide 16 years ago. Is it put me so far on the outside seeking this thing that didn't exist, right? And to the point where I felt that I wasn't enough, and I wanted to kill myself. And the ironic thing, man, is I wasn't ever taught really religion or even a relationship with God or whatever that represents for people. But the first time I ever prayed, I'd never prayed, I never even know how to pray, was right before I attempted suicide. I talked to my higher self. How crazy is that? I knelt down and I prayed to God, and I said, God, I'm sorry, I didn't mean to end up. I was like, who was I talking to? Right. And then all of a sudden I wake up to the great I am. And I'm like, all of a sudden I had this awakening where it's like, it's a higher consciousness calling, where it was like, okay. And then I start getting all these things handed to me, like these almost like treasure troves. Like you said, like a simulation. It was like, here's like a video game. Here's a secret. All right, now I'm going to present you to this Buddhist guy, and you're going to go work with him for a little bit. And I'm like, and it was so confusing, waters above. It was like, I remember, I'll tell you a lesson. You'll resonate with this. I was on a podcast a couple of years ago, and it finally hit me what the lesson was. So why I left Buddhism was, it was just this little house. These Buddhist monks would come down and they would teach in the area around here. And this Buddhist monk, he'd wear Jordans outside. I loved it. He called him the Buddhist monk with Jordans. And he would, when we were inside the place, I would sit Indian style, and everybody was so straight up and they were like so perfect. And I have trouble sitting Indian style. I have thicker legs, right? So I'm sitting there. And one day he comes up to me and he's like, dude, what's wrong? And I was like, I can't sit Indian style. And he's like, why are you sitting Indian style? I'm like, because everybody else is. He goes, how are you comfortable? I said, laying down. He goes, then he goes, hold on. Then he goes, then lay down. And when he walks by me, he goes, always do you. Then we had another lesson. It didn't click up until 3 years ago. This was years ago. We go outside, we do heel toe walk in the grass, right? And you're supposed to feel something. And you're supposed to just connect with earth. But I didn't know what the fuck we were doing, to be honest with you. I was trying to awaken, man. I was coming off opiates and shit. And one day I was like, oh, I felt it. He's like, what is it? And I said, I felt the sun on one side of my face and the breeze on the other side. And I thought I had went through a massive awakening. I was like, dude, I felt it. And he's like, what is it? And I was like, I told him, and I go, is that it? He's like, I don't know. And I literally left after that day. I was so pissed. I'm like, I was thinking he's supposed to give me the answer. So then years later, after I go through, my spiritual experience in Peru, I was like, holy shit. He was telling me just to be me, and he doesn't have the answer for me. And I was like, man, we've spent our whole lives trying to find it. He was like, you already know the answer, man. It's like he's saying to me, you're sitting there Indian style. You want to lay down, lay down. What are you afraid of? Right. And so it was just a powerful lesson, man. So
That's definitely something to remember, because there's going to be people in your reality that are like, "Oh, there's the protocol to get to where you got to go. You got to like, do the namaste all the time. You have to like wake up at a specific time. You have to fast for 40 days because Jesus did." Like they want you to play someone else's pattern, okay? What
yeah,
got Jesus to his level was his path.
yes, yep,
Okay, so what gets you to your outcome, whatever that is your path, not his path. His
mm,
path could influence you to get off the path of whatever has been indoctrinated into your reality. Of course, we're all here as influencers somehow, some way. But what we all need to remember is to avoid pain, people avoid pleasure. To avoid death, people avoid life.
wow,
So people live a reality that is solely just based in this consecutive, like patterning of the monotony of an existence, and that existentialism catches up to people. And when they finally become illumined to this, they want to find a teacher. And because they believe a teacher has an answer. So I totally get what you've put yourself through. And I'm sure now you see why this person that you were working with was able to tell you, like, you don't need to do what everyone's doing because that's not your path.
yeah.
Your greatness resides in yourself.
Yes, in yourself, right? It's like, and that's what the whole thing with the market attachment and all that stuff, and that's what's given me so much peace through all this, and why I resonate with sharing this message with people, because I feel like I went through my processes so that people could see the reflection. I mean, I've been a drug addict, committed suicide, was an executive, so I've lived all these different lives. And my daughter said that to me one day. She's like, "Dad, you've lived so many different lives." I said, I have, because I have lived my life full out. When I was a drug addict, I was all in, dude. I mean, I was 100% in being a drug addict. I mean, I did not
Right.
mess around. So that was the positive thing about my personality, if I can use it in a positive way. Now, when I became an executive, man, I worked hard. I moved up to the executive ranks, went to executive banking school. I was a banker full and through. But what I learned through that process is that I kept becoming a character that was an identification. And that's the biggest difference for me now, is that I've
Mm.
disidentified with any character. There is no there. I'm not anything. I'm just me showing up, enjoying talking to an amazing human being, waters above, and all these amazing high vibrational beings, and running a warrior academy that is geometry, which is my name, which is that was well. So waters above, and week 3, he decoded. Was it week 3? He decoded my name, and my
Mhm.
name is 3T Warrior Academy, which is wild, man. And so
Yeah,
that
your birthday aligns with your birth city.
that's wild, man.
Yeah, but that's what's really interesting. One of the quotes that I love that's really similar to the things that you've been just saying, was from this person named Fernando Pessoa, and he said, "I wasn't meant for reality, but life came and found me."
Wow.
So
Oh,
a lot of the time we believe reality is associated with this avatar. So the avatar of Coach JV. And you've noticed that you can have quite a passion about your existence. You could tap into passion, whether it be with a drug or whether it be with banking or whether it be with leading a community. Some of us are just void of tapping into what we're passionate about. And it's because we're not equipped with that capability to learn how to vibrate at that frequency. Unfortunately, that frequency can be vast. It could go everywhere from the lowest chakras to the highest, right? And when we tap into that, we have to be either courageous enough to locate it within, or we have to be surrounded by people that could prevent us from basically self-destructing. So this is why it's important that we all communicate and surround ourselves with people who operate at a high vibrational frequency, because when you're sitting there in the middle, like floating in la la land, if everyone around you is addicted to crypto or addicted to the XRP army or whatever the fuck, you're going to fall and sink with that Titanic.
yep.
You sink when that iceberg hits. Do you want to be there? Like, do you want to be on the Titanic when that moment happens? No. You want to be your own god or goddess. You want to transcend past this, physicality that comes with this with the cult, like truthfully that's what it is.
Mm,
A community is when there's a leader who's tapped into their truth and they help other people unlock their truth.
yes.
Okay?
Yeah.
A cult is a community that is ran by somebody who learns someone else's truth, practices that truth, spellcasts that truth onto everyone, and when other people don't agree with that truth, they get treated accordingly. Okay, so I'll repeat that. A community is a group of people who have leadership. It doesn't need to be one person, it could be thousands of people. It's a community that has leadership, that is seeking truth, who wants others to unlock their truth from within,
Oh,
not to post their truth onto others. And through this journey, you need to be happy for everyone's wins and losses, because that's life. Life has no answer. Life is to be alive. That's all it
mm,
is. It's to
yeah.
just live. And I think that's why all the systems that have been put in place are solely to keep people existing, not living.
Oh, yeah, that's what I was going to dive into next with the indoctrination system, was the school system, the financial system to keep you trapped in a debt-based cycle, the schooling system to keep you in line, right? Not you get a grade point average you for memorization, right? It's not based on your creation, it's based on memorization. And then you get your credit score and you're deemed a good citizen because you have a good credit score, or you can buy a house because you have a good credit score. And so all of us have been indoctrinated into that since we were young children, where we are so far outside of creation. Where I was actually watching this play. It was pretty interesting. Where this it was. It seems like what made me happy about watching this. It was actually on TikTok, and TikTok put it out there, which was interesting. So I think there is an awakening happening. So TikTok did this play where the parents are sitting there at a table with the child, and the child is like, the dad's like, "So son, are you excited to go to college?" And he goes, "Yeah." And the mom's kind of like, they're looking at staring at him, and he goes, yeah, I want to talk to you guys about this, right? He's like, I want to go to school for creative arts. His dad's like, nope, 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 nope. You can do that as a hobby, but we're going to go as an engineer. And his dad is just hammering down on him and hammering down on him. And it's like the son is trying to express what he wants to do through creation, right? And the dad
Mm-hmm.
is just like, you're going to be an engineer. And it's a really cool play. Like they start to act this out where the children are trying to awaken and awaken their parents, and the parents start to awaken. I was like, that was pretty cool. That not that like that TikTok is doing. Like what that tells me is that people are awakening to creation, and what if people use it properly? Social media is a great way to create and express your creation. And there's never been a platform or an outlet like that where you just went to school, you did a job, and you
Mm-hmm.
were indoctrinated, right? And if you were outside of that system, you're a rebel or a renegade or a hippie, or and now it's more socially accepted. And that's why I feel like we're going into some of the greatest times in human history.
Yeah, I mean, they're pushing us into a reality that we're going to have to accept whether or not. Like, they're going quantum, and that's all part of releasing the material hold on things. The test here is how good you are at transitioning through it. Are you going to cry and kick and scream and bitch and moan through the process? Or are you going to become empowered and change your path? That's what they're really testing right now. Because my greatest years have been my last 3 years.
Mm,
Simultaneously, I'm hearing it's some people's worst 3 years. So I don't
right.
know how that happened. Okay. And that's not me saying that people should always be doing good. It's me saying that when we're looking at reality through the lenses of what's happening regarding legislature or the increase in gas prices or whatever the hell, it's a sign that your reality is not a spiritual reality. It's a physical reality that's very focused on these materialistic ideas. And if you were aware of these teachings before this event happened, you would have been able to prepare yourself. Like, I'll tell you a quick story. The reason I got into crypto was not because I thought I would make money. The reason I got into crypto is because I was worried about the Federal Reserve printing a shit ton of money.
Yep. Wow.
Okay. I did not
Mm,
get into crypto so I could make money, guys. I got into crypto to prevent my fucking money going to become dog shit.
yep.
The money I
Yep.
already had that I worked hard on other businesses to make happen. Like, I lost 3 businesses just during COVID.
Mm,
Okay. So people are so unaware of like what's going on here, and they think that everyone's in the same boat as just them. And again, if you look at my story, I was just trying my best to stay afloat. I heard what the Federal Reserve was doing. I was like, this is not good. I'm gonna buy Bitcoin. Like,
mm,
I don't care if Dan Pena says Bitcoin's going to zero. I don't care if the XRP army says it's going to zero. I need to save myself, and it's
mhm.
not going to happen because of people's opinions.
Yes.
And I mean, just if you study billionaires, which is fine, there's billionaires out there that have made some of the worst choices ever, but they could afford to make those bad choices because they're not risking too much when they make those choices. You know how many
Yes.
bad mistakes Warren Buffett made? But he didn't make it with his entire portfolio. He made it with capital he was willing to watch go to zero.
Mm,
So I respect individuals like that. Rule number 1, don't lose money. Rule number 2, don't forget rule number 1. Okay.
Love it.
So
Yeah.
why is it that when people get into crypto, they put all too much, they over leverage, they over risk, and then they get mad at YouTubers when the prices don't go up? It's like this is the reality that 99% of crypto investors are suffering from. And I
Yep.
know this stuff really hurts. Like this is spicy stuff here. Like a lot of
Good.
people get offended by this, but this is like the slap in the face that people need to hear. If you're
One,
getting into crypto solely because someone on YouTube told you that one specific coin is going to go 1000x, you didn't do anything based on financial security. You did everything based on financial freedom. And financial freedom is a psyop. The only freedom that truthfully exists is the freedom of your mind.
yep.
A
I
free
love it.
mind, a free mind unlocks all the other freedom. It's money, you could be a billionaire, but if you have a closed mind, you'll go back to zero with that portfolio or that bank account. I've seen it happen with many people. I've met many, many, many wealthy people that have lost it all because they didn't have a free mind.
Mm. It's unbelievably powerful. That's in the academy we teach foundation, the mindset. Always mindset. Always mindset. You're already free, you're already wealthy, and then you become the frequency, and then the opportunities show up, right? I agree with you 100%. Like people say that, I love XRP. And so people call me the XR, like I'm the XRPR. I'm like, I am fully diversified throughout cryptocurrencies that I feel are going to be part of the new ecosystem, the financial system. I'm also diversified outside of crypto, which I teach in the academy, insurance, businesses, precious metals, right? And I'm not attached to any of them. I'm doing the same thing you're doing within the physical reality that I have to play in. I'm setting my family up the best that I can within the knowledge that I've gained, right? And so the tribalism piece is they want tribalism in crypto. They want the XRP going against Bitcoin. And it's the same thing that they're doing with left and right. Same thing they're doing with the mask. I mean, they're wanting tribalism to happen. They want, like the Terra Luna thing was just disheartening to see that happen to people. And it's like, and my heart goes out to every single person. People have their life savings in there, but it's like what we're trying to teach is that heart brain coherence that it can't just be all about crypto. It can't, and also diversification is important outside of cryptocurrency. What I want to say to people too is like, this is the greatest time in human history to be an entrepreneur. You've never been a waters above, and I can cruise around with our computers all over the world and run a business. I just need a microphone and a computer, and I can run my whole business. I can run all my businesses, 9 companies. I can have meetings, Zoom calls. I can take my kids to, traveling. I can do all that stuff. And it's just something I want to encourage people to really get into that creative state of mind. They call it the great resignation, because people are starting to realize that, damn, I can do what I do at my job, but I can make it better, right? Through technology and things like that. It's really important to get into a creative state of mind. If there's any time in human history to go after a new career or go after starting a company, and I think a lot of people think that you need, for example, I'm really good at motivation, inspiration. I understand how to scale businesses. I'm not good at organization. I'm not good at the organizing the financial piece of it. So I have a CFO. I have a team that organizes it. I have an admin that sends me my schedule. So what I did is I took my skills and then I found all my gaps and I plugged people in the place of those gaps. Boom, like a puzzle piece. Now we have this beautiful puzzle, which is our warrior team. And I think people think, I believe in my heart of hearts, if you have the idea, then you're able to create it. But what we think is we have the idea and we have to have all the resources. That's the idea. The idea is that the ability to create. And within there, we start to plug people into that.
Yeah, Warren Buffett calls it a circle of competence. When you're aware of what it is that you're competent in, you could actually kind of be aware of your weaknesses at the same time. And when you're aware of your weaknesses, you could then delegate to other people what those things are that they have as a strong suit. And it comes back to the idea of like, how does a team work? People think that Michael Jordan is the greatest basketball player ever, but he also had a team that was helping him kind of hold that name. But also, why was the head coach of the Bulls at that time able to go to the Lakers and pull off just as many championship wins? Because there's a big difference between the player and the coach.
Powerful.
The reason the whole team does well is not just because of the players. It's because of the organization from chief. So it's really important that people realize what you just said. I think that's super important. One very encouraging thing I could say to individuals right now is right now during the Shmita is the time where there's the most financial chaos. What that means is that's the most opportunity Okay.
Yes. Yeah.
And while most people are depressed or they're giving up, this allocates more real estate for you to actually pay attention right now. So, what I mean by that is energy cannot be created or destroyed, it has to go somewhere. So, when
Mm,
all the evictions kick in and all the craziness, the layoffs, when all that happens, that's your that's your bat signal in the sky that says, put that
yep.
Superman, put that cape on and go become a superhero right now, while everyone else is failing and waiting for Batman to show up in their life.
Yep. I
Become
love it.
become the superhero at that moment, because that's your best opportunity. When everyone is not paying attention and they're distracted and they're sad and they're anxiety driven, this is your chance. This is what I did. During the C word, I was already aware of germ theory, terrain theory. I was already aware of how viruses work. I was aware of all of this. I had a deep understanding of nutrition and all of this esoteric stuff. So I saw it as a beautiful opportunity of buying the blood in the streets, you
Mm,
know? I didn't get and I think, the last thing I'll say, when you're watching too much content and it's content that's very like dramatic, do your best to just step back and ask yourself, like, with what I'm consuming on a daily basis regarding TikTok, Twitter, whatever, is it stuff that serves me and that perpetuates my growth? Or is it stuff that's just filling up a void of my attention in my day? Because you brought up something great. The awakening that's happening, it's allowing you to finally see that all of this stuff on the internet is not just a weapon. It could be a tool, but it's up to you to learn how to make that transition.
mm,
So I personally don't use those social media platforms just because that's the type of person I am. I rather
mhm.
play guitar or go out in the sunshine, and then when I'm ready to work, I work. But that's just me, and I understand that people are different. Just if you're going to be spending 8 hours, 9 hours of your day on a computer, make sure that you're at least taking something away each day that's bringing you one step closer to where you desire.
Oh, it's so powerful, man. That goes into the what we talked about in the practical tools in week 3. And we're going to get this out to you guys. So a lot of people are asking to join the Great Awakening. We're going to get it packaged up and you'll be able to buy the pre-recorded videos. In week 3, we talked about practical tools in a very unpractical world. Your vibrational frequency is so important, and you control that through the things you see, the things you hear, the activities you do on a daily basis. And because you are the frequency, right? So if you're, and you said it, if you're the 5 people you're around, our parents used to say this to us all the time. You are who you surround yourself with. But did they really even know what they were saying? You are the frequency of the 5 people that you embody, right? That you're with on a daily basis. If you're trying to become an entrepreneur and you're around people who are in the just over broke, who are constantly bashing you, you're not going to succeed. You have to break free from that paradigm to enter a new frequency paradigm. And everybody, the one thing that I wanted to say, the last thing I really want to dive into is everybody has access to all of this, all this frequency. You have
Mhm.
access right now to a very low frequency and access to a very high frequency. That's why some of us are having the greatest time in human history, and some of us are having the worst time in human history. That's why some people like Waters Above and I, during the worst economic times in the world, built our businesses, and we lost businesses and we shifted. This is the last thing I want to talk to you about, is being able to shift very quickly. Like, you should be able to shift, you should be mobile, you should be fluid, and you should be able to follow what's happening, right? You can use the narrative to your advantage to bring the money back to the people. That's what I always say, as the narrative shifts, our business model shifts to help more people. And so you can use the own narrative. If you say, if there is nefarious people, whatever, if you think they're nefarious and they're doing, you can use their information to help gain more people. It's really
Facts.
interesting. Like on TikTok, it's like the wildest thing. I put a post out and it talked about the World Health Organization, right, is on May 22nd, Biden's looking to give them sovereignty. Post explodes. But then I do a post that says, hey guys, I just want to share with you, I love you so much. I know a lot of people are struggling. No views, nothing. So I'm able to use a fear-based mechanism to allow the people to listen for a moment, to capture their attention, get them to pay attention, and through that, give them a high vibration message to get into the community, to understand that there is another frequency that they can experience. And if you do something for a long enough period of time, you will access that frequency. The problem is we start and stop, and we start and stop, and we start and stop, and we start and stop. And I keep encouraging men, like I'm really big on this piece with the pornography piece, and I know it's outside of the realm of what we're talking about. Well, it really isn't. It's frequency. I'm really encouraging men, and you're not a sinner. You're not a bad person if you do it. But what I'm saying is that if you can break free from that and transmute your sexual energy, which is something I've mastered, it's been the most powerful thing for me as a human being, as a
Mhm.
CEO, companies. I've been able to transmute that sexual energy into creation. And through that creation, it's become, I just keep bringing it up because it's the most powerful. I've finally mastered it. And through that
So
mastery,
important.
I become a creation being. It's wild, like what I've been able to do. When I get that urge, I go into creation. I go create something.
Yeah,
So
I'm
I want
really
to hear.
happy actually. The new Kendrick Lamar album that just dropped, he brought up semen retention like 10 times on the album. Yeah, but
Did he really?
he didn't call it semen retention. He called it
Wow.
fasting. But the moments in which he was bringing it up was always around the context of sex. So,
Good for
you
him.
know,
Good for him, man.
yeah, I mean, this guy's a legend. But yeah, it's very important that people remember that your attention it's all dopamine, okay? And the thing about dopamine is crying and laughing are the same dopamine. You could actually like cry so much that you start laughing, and you could actually laugh so much that you start crying. And every creative process in this reality goes from pleasure to extreme pain to creation. Think about, we have sex, then the woman has to give birth, that's extreme pain, and then we have a baby. Okay, so this has to deal with alchemy. If people start learning about hermeticism and alchemy, they could start to see there's some real esoteric wisdom within all of this. And the whole point of this is to say that it's energy and learning how to use your energy. And anyone who gets into any form of fasting, it could even be the fasting of using electronics,
Yeah.
the fasting of talking, the fasting of eating a specific food or doing a specific activity like watching pornography. Whatever it is that's kind of getting you off your path, you need to be able to realize that. Or go back to what I said before, you need to be surrounded by people who will make you realize that. One of the reasons why I only talk to great people is because I want people in my life that either are aligned with me or people that'll look me in the eyes and tell me that, hey, this
Yeah.
is how you're being. I
Yeah.
want you to be my mirror, because as a creator, my mind's going off and firing in all these directions, so sometimes I'm not even sure what's going on in myself anymore, you know, and that's a product of having my sort of mind. And I'm aware of that. So as I'm aware of this, I need to make sure that who I surround myself with is also feeding that energy. But it's a transaction, it's
Right.
something that's love in, love out, rinse, repeat. And there's no offense taken if somebody looks you in the eyes and tells you the truth. The, the,
Yeah.
the issue that most people deal with is they surround themselves by people who agree with them. Okay.
Yeah.
You
Yep.
don't want to be like, if everyone is just a yes man, if everyone says yes, JV, yes, JV, yes, JV, JV never learns a fucking lesson.
Never.
You have to be, agreeability is one of the biggest issues with our species. We want to be liked. We want to be liked. So what you brought up before about coming out and make a video, you say, I love you, I appreciate everyone, I'm so grateful for all of you. It won't get as many likes as something where you're actually putting out a destructive or chaotic nature in your message. It's because
Yeah.
people feed off of chaos. That's what they favor. Okay. And that's a sign, that's a reflection of where humanity's at. Imagine if we really shift towards this state of awareness, then when somebody's giving out the flowers and saying, I love you and I'm grateful for all of you, those are the videos that'll trend. Those are the videos that'll do the best. So now everyone knows, why is news always talking about car crashes, explosions, war, food shortage? Because that's what feeds the beast.
Yes. Wow, man. I always tell people, like, if you're in a grocery store aisle and you're checking out, if there's a Bible and a tabloid magazine, which one would you pick up? Everybody would pick up the tabloid magazine, right? So this is a great way to kind of wrap it up. And we're going to continue these YouTubes. We've gotten so much feedback. And number one, I love working with you. It's just absolutely amazing. Our communities have heavily crossed over. And, I think Waters Above would agree with me. We're just here to spread some truth. That's all it is, our truth. We're not trying to get anybody to believe a word we say, but I always say, trust the feeling and vibration it creates in your body and act accordingly. If it makes you uncomfortable, then good, then activate on that, right? If it makes you feel uncomfortable, then activate on that. Prove the things wrong that we're saying. That actually allows you to go out there and create. Use the emotion to create motion. And I hope the message reached you guys well, that this is a beautiful time in human history. So don't get fudded in, don't get fudded out. Do not get attached to the market. Know that you are the market. So we love you guys. We appreciate you guys. As we always say, warriors, rise, get your shit together. Let's go. We'll see you guys soon.